This episode of the Gooner Ramble is sponsored by the new sporting betting app called Bookie. That's Bookee. Sign up using the promo code podcast, deposit and bet £10 in multiple bets for a free £10 bet. Please bet responsibly.
Hello and welcome to the Europa League review here at the Gooner Ramble podcast. I am your host as ever, Giles, coming to you today alongside a special guest, bringing her back for the Europa League review. It is the one and only Lana Dawood, also known as Coco Lito on Twitter. How you doing, Lana?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad, all things considered. I mean, I've gotten over the embarrassment of Arsenal's defeat against Ostersund on Thursday night. But we have a small matter of a tie against AC Milan to look forward to. So we've just had the draw.
Yeah.
The last 16 draw. Some interesting ties. And I just wanted to speak to you because you obviously know a little bit about football on the continent. So I wanted to pick your brain about some of the ties that we have available. Now, you know a lot, you follow a lot of Italian football and French football. A lot of people will know you for that. So, if we start with the first tie, we've got Lazio versus Dinamo Kiev. Good draw for Lazio?
I would say so. They have been the surprise team this season. I don't think they've gotten much credit or I don't think people pay much attention to them due to the fact that it's Napoli that's been the standout team to watch this season when it comes, to the league. Not so much Europe, because we all know that Sarri wasn't taking that seriously, treating it like, it was some irrelevant cup game. So I think that it should be a good game. They've had a bit of, up and downs in the league, but overall, they've had a really good season and they have some fantastic players, who are so good. Yesterday they they won 5-0 with Immobile scoring a hat-trick, who's also in a great form. Yeah. 5. Yeah. They scored in I didn't even pay attention to the goal they conceded. I was so busy watching the fact that they were, cruising on because, as I said, in the league, it's been up and down, losing to Napoli and to Genoa, but then going on to win in Europa, which they take seriously compared to another team. Yeah.
Tell me about Immobile, because he seems, if there's ever somebody that epitomizes this phrase, no place like home, it's Ciro Immobile. He went to Dortmund, he went to Atletico, or was it Seville or somewhere, didn't really work out for him there, and he's come back to Italy, and this season he's scored 20 plus goals so far, is that right?
Yeah, he's the top scorer in Serie A, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, as you said, there's no place like home, and I think for some, we see so many Italian players never leaving Italy because they're so comfortable in their own league. And I think this also applies to him. I think that it was, brave of him to actually leave to go and test himself in another league. It didn't turn out as he had planned. So he came home, and I think that had such a fantastic season with Lazio so far. Keep scoring these goals and taking them further up the table, potentially taking them extremely far in the Europa League as well. We saw it yesterday. He has such a great understanding with, that midfield, especially Marco Parola. And it's been a joy to watch them play this season because I've always focused on Juve, but this season I've tried to give more attention to the other teams just to have a sense of how they're playing. And it's also been such a good season in Serie A in terms of, the competition. More players are evolving. Teams are challenging more on all fronts compared to how it's been in the last few years. And I think it's good for Serie A as a whole to have more teams doing well in Europe and competing and going so far. And it's also good for the league in terms of, coefficient points, getting more Champions League spots. So I'm really excited about this season, despite the fact that we're now top of the league, I'm spoiled. I'm always used to being number one. So having that 1 point separating us and Napoli is it's irritating.
Two names that also jump out of the page from that team are Milinkovic-Savic, who's been really touted as one of the top up-and-coming midfielders in Europe, and also the return of Felipe Anderson, the Brazilian. Those two seem to have really sort of like acted two massive parts of the supporting cast for Ciro Immobile, aren't they?
Yeah, Milinkovic has been amazing, in my opinion, the best midfielder in Serie A. Probably one of the top 5 in Europe. And there's no surprise that some of the biggest clubs in Europe are after him. I obviously hope that we will see him in black and white, in the fall, but, the price tag is huge. He is, only getting better and better. It doesn't seem like he's so consistently good, and that's so rare to see in some of these players that are up and coming. Because, because of their age and everything. So it's been so fun to watch him. And as you said, also Felipe Anderson has been great as well. Had a really good game yesterday and scored a goal. So it's all about having, that mentality to be able to keep up with the pressure, because I don't think they're used to competing on 2-3 fronts and then having that pressure to remain stable and performing and getting the results that they need. I think it will be interesting to see going forward where they end up on the table in Serie A, how far they can go in the Europa League. They were one of the teams I wanted to avoid in the draw today, so thank God.
Another team that is close to your heart in the French league here is Olympique de Marseille.
Excuse me, I think I heard of it wrong here.
Come on, we all know you love Marseille, really. They negotiated a tie. They negotiated a tie with Braga, and now they've got interesting tie against Athletic Bilbao. Marseille, they've done pretty well this season so far, haven't they? I mean, they're quietly sort of like developing as a unit under Rudy Garcia. What can you tell us about them?
Oh, you wanted me to praise them?
Or just give us a facts only. Synopsis.
The thing is, it's not Marseille Football Club. It's Toivonen Football Club, because he's been carrying that team on his back. And without him, they would be nowhere. Like, they would be so further down the table than they are. They're second in the league right now, which only makes me more depressed. Third, sorry. They're a point behind Monaco. And Toivonen has been exceptional. He's been amazing, scoring 16, 17 goals, saving them time after time, showing up in big games. And it's such a huge testament to him as a player, how far he's come from he left England to, joining Marseille and just slowly developing and becoming such a talented and great player. And he's one of the favorites to be in that French squad coming, in the summer. But I don't know how it is, because Deschamps called him up last time, didn't even let him play a single minute, despite the fact that it was, friendly games. So we all have these players that we think should be in the squad, but then again, we also know Didier Deschamps, we know how he thinks. If it would be between him and Sissoko is going 10 out of 10 times. So that's just how it is. But they, won against Braga, lost yesterday, obviously, but that was expected. The team they featured wasn't that strong. And now they're playing Atletico Bilbao, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, yeah.
It should be a good game. The Spanish teams are always doing well in Europe, performing, and they're the goal when it comes to Ligue 1 and how good they are even in Europe and in the Champions League.
That's what I want. Right.
Yeah, and that is the goal that they aspire. That's what Ligue 1 aspires to be, to be able to have 3 teams in the Champions League, to be able to have 4 teams in Europa, and having them go far, because it's good, in terms of getting in the money, more publicity for the league, because now it's all about Neymar being, the star player. But we forget that there's so many good players in that league.
Young players as well.
Yeah.
Young players,
when you look at the likes of Umtiti, who went to Barcelona and now is currently probably the best defender in Europe, and just seeing how he went for 20 millions, and then you see Laporte going for 70, who's nowhere near at the same level. But there's so many good players in Ligue 1, but they don't get enough credit, enough, rating, because
exposure,
yeah, it's a farmers league, according to most people who don't watch it, who don't have any interest in the league. And it's a shame. And I think now this season more than ever, they've tried to step out of that shadow, of, that label that they've got. And in terms of how many great players they've produced, and these players are now performing in the Champions League, in Europa League. And it's great to watch, personally for me, who's watched all these players from a young age, and now they're going on to becoming the best in their position. So I'm really excited, because I've taken a step back from being emotionally attached to any team and just paying it. I don't get upset anymore if it's,
you look at it from an objective lens, very objectively, yeah.
I try to, when it comes to Lyon, it's difficult, but I try to be as objective as I can compared to before, because before I would just, the glasses were on and I couldn't see any criticism whatsoever. But now, I think for me personally, it's been a better experience. My sanity is better. I'm less crazy and everything. So it just gives us also the time to pay attention to other teams, other leagues. I've, tried to follow the Bundesliga a bit more, the Spanish as well, just to get a sense of how it works. And, it's nice. I recommend it.
Cool. All right. So let's go. You mentioned Olympique Marseille, Lyon. So that's your team in France. They've been drawn against CSK Moscow. Lyon, they're sort of, I would call them a renaissance team. They've really sort of, or less, for as much as I dislike him as a person, I admire what he's done with the club. The amount of talent that's coming through your ranks is unbelievable. This season again, despite losing Lacazette and Coco, amongst others, they've sort of like replenished, and here they are again, darlings of Europe. Tell us a little bit more about what's so good about Olympique Lyon.
What's so interesting about Lyon, if you look at it from an outside, not just in terms of the player, but how it works as a club, their foundation. We saw it earlier as well, when the likes of Alessandro, Benzema, Gomez, all these players left. Then the Qatari money came in. Aulas knew he could never compete with that amount of ridiculous money being spent. He had to go all youth. And then, they have, in my opinion, the best academy in Europe. And then they produced the likes of Tolisso, Umtiti, Lacazette. And then when that generation left, they had to start over. So this is like the new generation 2.0 with the likes of, Hossam Aouar, Lucas Toussaint, Ndombele, Fekir and Maulida Mendy, Diakabi. These are all amazing players, Guiri, who's getting a lot of praise as well, done really well with the youth team, for the club and for country. So.
You've got another young kid coming through called Giles.
Yeah. He hasn't featured much for the first team, more for, the youth team. So when it's time for him to step up, I believe it will probably be next season. I think it's a bit too soon for him now. We've seen a bit of Maulida this season. And, from the youth team, Aouar, that Lyon midfield has been exceptional with the, and Ndombele coming from Amiens for like 2.4 million on a loan, rejected, the opportunity to go to the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, all these big players, teams wanted him. But he was so smart. He decided to go to a team where he knew he was going to get the playing time, get the experience, develop as a player. And now he's one of the most sought out players in Europe, having the likes of Juventus, Barcelona, Madrid, the big teams in England wanting him. He's been linked to Bayern Munich as well. And I think the key plan here has been to bring these players, build a team around them, and develop them. And Allah said this as well. He's, paid down on the stadium. He doesn't have to sell them. we all know Fekir is probably going to leave this summer, but if we can keep the others and bring in someone that can replace Fekir, bring in, another defender, just to keep the core players, they can go so far. And it's admirable in some ways that they don't, resort to the money, but instead, develop their own players who then go on to become one of the greatest in their position going forward. So it's been interesting, and they beat Villarreal as well. I think it was 4-1 on aggregate.
That's right, yeah.
The first game, they were great, beat them 3-1, and then yesterday, Traoré, in the last 5 minutes of the game, went and scored the goal to seal the deal, because I was a bit worried, because they have had such a tough fixture, playing PSG, Monaco, Lille, Bordeaux, beating PSG, beating Monaco, then losing in the Cubs, but now they have the derby on Sunday, so it's been a huge test for these players who don't have the experience to compete on multiple fronts. They're young, the average age is 22 years old. So, cause they lost so many key players, leadership, in Lacazette, Gonalun, Tolisso, Umtiti, these are all players with experience, leadership, and now they have Fekir, who's, in my opinion, really stepped up as a player, who should also be in that squad, in the summer, but yeah.
How do they play? What's the kind of system that Genesio employs?
They play a 4-3-3. It depends. They played a lot of the same as Juve did a while, 3-5-2. It worked sometimes, but then it didn't. It works against, a counter-attacking team, but I like the formation that they play now. Yesterday they played a 4-2-3-1. With Fekir behind Diaz, Memphis Depay, Traoré out wide, and then you have the Ndombele and Trossard in the middle. And there's two huge key players, because they, protect that back four who can be so shaky at the time. It will be interesting to see how it goes.
I'm very conscious of time, but I really want to talk about those two boys in the centre midfield. Now, from the moment I saw him, Ndombele, I loved him. And he's getting a lot of highlight, a lot of exposure. But the guy that really interests me in that midfield is Trossard, and I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does.
In my opinion, he is the key player in that midfield. Don't get me wrong, I love Ndombele, I love Aouar. They're two exceptional talents. But as you said, Trossard doesn't get enough credit. Much like Ramsey, in some ways, when he's not there, you see how vital he is to that midfield. And we saw it when he was suspended against Lille, I believe. Yeah. He protects that back four so much, and also when it comes to going forward. And when he's not there, it's such a huge gap in that midfield that's missing. And it's also, I believe that it's also been the reason why Lyon has not given up, but crumbled a bit when it comes late in the game, because he's an engine. He's much, like Matuidi. He runs and runs and runs. It's like the energy he has in the span of 90 minutes is incredible. And as you said, he doesn't get enough credit. He's been linked to Juve. I think he would fit really well in there, but I hope he stays, because I believe he is the future of the national team of Lyon.
He's I would call him one of the new breed of defensive midfielders, where he's not just a destroyer, but he's actually a builder. He has the technical ability to secure the ball, retain the ball, and pass it.
It's so rare as well, because he has both the defensive and the attacking set of the game, which is so rare. Because when you see with Ndombele, he is more defensively set than say Trossard. Aouar is more attackingly set. And to have a player, it's so rare in my opinion, especially now in 2018, where you see less and less of those kind of players who have the both end of the pitch, set.
Exactly.
So I hope that, he continues to develop. I'm a huge fan. I remember when he first joined Lyon, I told on another pod, I was like, he is the future of Lyon. He's going to be so good. He's going to dominate that midfield one day. And that was like 2 years ago. And to see, being right and everything, to see him doing so well, it's it's like a personal achievement to me. So I was like, yes.
He's definitely one of the players. If Arsenal are lacking a defensive midfield, and he's definitely one of the players that I would earmark as somebody that could do a very good job in our midfield. Okay, so you've got CSK Moscow. They're not doing great in their league. They've managed to scrape a 1-0 aggregate victory against Red Star Belgrade. Do you see that one being easily negotiable?
Yes and no. My biggest concern is the fact that Russia, I don't want to, offend anyone, but it's known for its racism, and being a team that is so multicultural like Lyon, I worry how, if they were to be racially abused, how that would affect the players who are not maybe used to that environment and that atmosphere that they would probably get going to Russia. So it's a bit of a concern. So that's also a huge test to them, how they will, come back from it. I hope that they don't get racially abused, because, we've seen it with other players who are more established, more experienced, that it does affect them. We saw it yesterday as well with Batshuayi getting racially abused by some of the Atalanta players. And as much as he tries to, laugh it off and be like, I'm not going to let it affect him, it does affect the player to a certain degree. So that's a bit of a worry going to Russia with these players as well. Especially with having Mendy, Traore, and Ndombele, Marcelo, these players, even Depay. So I'm just like, please behave, Russia, please.
Well, let's see how that one turns out. Okay, so the final time I want to talk about really is AC Milan versus Arsenal. For me, very worried about it. It could have been worse. Could have got Atletico Madrid or Borussia Dortmund or any of the bigger teams. But AC Milan jumps out because obviously we're two, I suppose, glamorous clubs in the competition. AC Milan have been under some sort of renaissance under Gennaro Gattuso. What can you tell us about AC Milan and sort of like how they play and what kind of team they are now?
They signed Bonucci, which was, I think, probably the shocking signing of the summer. Mm-hmm. But it was supposed to be a good signing because, coming from Juve, being, lauded as the best center back in Europe, et cetera, et cetera. And it just went downhill right away. He was genuinely struggling. The team overall struggled a lot, seeing the coach getting sacked. Then they brought in Gattuso, that raised eyebrows because they were like, doesn't have the experience leading such a huge team. How can this go? And now I think they've won their last 6 games. And there's talks about giving him a contract extension. Milan loves to jump, really fast when it comes to stuff like that. I think they brought in some good players this summer, but I think the coach wasn't the right coach to, assemble this team, put them together and make them function as a team, because it's so hard if you don't have the right kind of coach to, have the experience with young players and with older players and just be able to make them work as a team. And I think that coaches don't get enough credit for that, because when you bring in a new team, we saw it with Lille as well. They brought in a huge ton of players and struggled a lot, are down in relegation zone. And now we see it with Milan as well. Luckily for them, Gattuso managed to turn it all around, being the player he's been. He was great as a player, and now going on as a coach, he has something special. And I think that Arsenal should be worried, because you don't know which Milan will show up, much like Arsenal as well. But I think that in this aspect, I think Milan are defensively a bit more solid than Arsenal is. So it will be interesting to see how it goes going forward. I think in terms of attack, Arsenal trumps Milan. But then again, in order to win a game, you need a solid foundation at the back. And I don't see Arsenal having that. I personally get a heart attack every time I see the ball going near the box watching Arsenal. I don't know, like you as a fan. Yeah.
Like the rest of us. Yeah. So he's managed to sort of like bring all these moving parts together. And I understand that Montella was seen as a bit of a stubborn guy stubborn coach, wasn't prepared to sort of like shift from his philosophies and whatnot, wherever they were. How has Gattuso managed to sort of bring these all together? Because like you said, there was a lot of players, there was a high turnover in the summer, a lot of players. What has he done specifically to sort of like get them to play as a team now?
I think he's more vocal, and he's also of the older generation of, the Italian greats. He knows what it is to win a game, how to build a strong defense, build a strong midfield and attack, not necessarily make them all three successful, but you have to start somewhere. And if you can have that solid foundation at the back, which is so crucial to Italian play, because we've seen it, with the national team, with Juventus, with the old Milan teams and Inter teams, how important it is to have a solid defense, because it wins you games, whether you like it or not. People will say it's boring, a 1-0 win, but those games win you games, and they also win you trophies, which is what fans want in the end. I don't care how boring it is to watch these kind of games, but if that gives me a Champions League trophy at the end of the season, a Scudetto, a Coppa Italia trophy, then I'm not going to complain. I don't need my team to play like City and not win. I need them to play probably boring football and then give me that trophy. And I think that's what he's trying to build here. He's trying to build a solid team for the future. Probably going to need to bring in more players in the summer, a better striker, probably a better midfielder, because Montolivo, I don't really like him at all, but they do need a couple more players to make that team complete. And I think when that happens, they're probably going to be able to compete for the Champions League spot, for the Scudetto, to win probably a Coppa Italia trophy. And Milan has struggled for a long time. They've lost, so many great players, and they have gone through a bit of a rebuilding period. It's taken a bit longer than they expected. But I'm not going to go out and say, oh, Milan, the old Milan is back. But I really like the fact that he's managed to turn it around, and he's done it at the right time, because now they go and play Arsenal.
So, yeah, it's a good time to play Arsenal. I just wanted to ask, look, Crotone is the guy that jumps out. I mean, young, he's sort of like stepped up from the youth team, he's banging in goals. They seem to play, well, last night they certainly played a 4-3-3. Crotone steps up. Who else is a real sort of like big player for that team? You said Bonucci, but who else are players that Arsenal fans should look out for?
I would probably say Calhanoglu. He started out really slow, coming from another team, doing so well there, and then coming to Milan. I don't know if it was the right decision, but I would be very of him.
Calhanoglu, okay, from Leverkusen, yeah.
Yeah, Bonaventura scored as well yesterday. He gets a bit of a stick, but the thing is, you can't really say that one player is dangerous, because, as I said, it depends who decides to show up. But seeing as it's such a huge fixture and they really want to do well, I think that they all are going to do well. Suso as well sometimes has done well, then goes through a poor form, but I would be wary of the team as a whole, rather than key players, which you would be at Arsenal. But I think that in terms of being a whole as a unity, Milan is better at it than, I would say, Arsenal, who's gone through a bit of a reshuffle, or, losing Alexis, bringing in Mkhitaryan, and then, much to my depressing heart, losing Lacazette to injuries, and now you have Aubameyang out as well, because he's not eligible for the Europa League, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Cup tie.
So relying on Danny Welbeck isn't something that I think many teams would want to do, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So I think the key players for Arsenal would be Mesut Ozil, Ramsey,
and Mickey.
Those three.
Okay. And how do you see this one turning out then, if you was to put money on it?
Last time I predicted this game, I got tons of abuse. Apparently, for some strange reason, whenever I'm told to predict if Arsenal meets a French team or Italian, I always have money on the opposition, which then ends up being the correct one. So it's not that I don't rate Arsenal. I do. It's just that I don't want to offend anyone. I think that Milan might go through. But I think the key game will be probably at the Emirates. If that one goes well, if Arsenal wins, then I think that they can, go through. But it all depends on if they get back Lacazette in time, if the team can finally get their shit together and perform, because they're so bipolar.
Tell me. What's your? I know you love Lacazette, and I would like you to speak objectively about how you've seen his first 6-7 months at Arsenal. Now, he started off pretty well, scored goals, linked up well with the team, but as we've seen since Ramsey had been out, the dynamic has changed somewhat, and he's struggled. Now, to my mind, the first 6 months is always going to be difficult, especially when you come from a league that has a Christmas break or winter break, doesn't really play as many intense games as you do here in England. And down history, through the years, Arsenal bringing in players from foreign leagues have always sort of had to stomach or endure that adjustment period. But Arsene Wenger has brought in Aubameyang again, and it looks now as if Lacazette is to be a bench player. How would you assess his opening period at Arsenal?
If I was to be objective, I think that we always knew he was going to struggle. We've seen it, with the likes of great players like Henry, and other players coming into the league, that it is an adjustment. Perez as well. It is an adjustment period, and I get that Arsenal fans are impatient. They wish to see players flourish right away, but it's not how it works. I mean, I think, as someone said, you could bring in Messi to this team and they would still struggle. Yes, Messi is capable of winning games on his own, but this team is so dysfunctional, and I think it has been like this for years. I just think that the cracks have been covered as good as they can be. I know that people love to blame Wenger for everything that goes wrong, but I also think that the team has to take its blame. I think the Lacazette started out well. From what I've read, he got an injury before the United game, was played through it, and then we saw the last game he played, he was really struggling, and even in just running was such a huge job for him. And, I know he's not the fastest, but he's not that slow either. And I think that having the surgery will probably help. It's just a shame that it's happening now after getting so much stick and then getting injured and then signing Aubameyang. It must be such a huge blow to his confidence, because I don't care who you are as a player, whether you're Suarez, Cavani, Zlatan, Messi, Ronaldo. If you don't have that confidence going out on the pitch, you're not going to perform. It's that easy. They're humans just like us. If you don't have the confidence going into a job interview, it's going to go south. You need the confidence, you need the faith and the belief from the coach, from the players, from the fans to do well, because they thrive on it as much as we do, getting love from our loved ones, families and everything. And I think people forget that there are only humans just like us. Yes, they get a bigger, fatter paycheck, but it's their job. They're footballers, but we also have to be patient with them. And I think also, bringing Aubameyang in, he started out as, on one side of the pitch, while Lacazette started out, one plays left, and one starts right. They all started out that way from the youth time, where Aubameyang on one side when he came through at Saint-Etienne, then going to Dortmund. So I don't think that will be an issue, but I don't think they're able to play together either, which also is a huge concern. Because they want to be the focal point of that team. And in order to be that, you have to bench one.
Could Lacazette play behind Aubameyang as a second striker?
Yes and no. He did that at Lyon. And I think that Lacazette is more versatile. in that term, so he's more able to do that than Aubameyang is. I'm not bashing Aubameyang or anything. He's a wonderful player, but he has the speed. He's clinical, but I think Lacazette brings more to his game than Aubameyang does. And I know I'm probably going to get a lot of abuse for that. I don't care. But in terms of being a more complete player, I think Lacazette is a better player than Aubameyang is. And he is a fantastic player when he's fit, when he's on form, which we've seen over the years at Lyon. There's a reason why Atletico wanted him so badly, and I hate to say it. I've talked about it on the Hipsters pod that I think it's going to be a huge domino effect this summer by Lacazette going to Atletico, Griezmann going to Barcelona, and all these, key players moving around. I don't think Lacazette will stay beyond this summer. It's really sad to say it, because when, watching him through the years, I always wanted him to go and play for Arsenal under Arsene Wenger, because I believe he's the right coach to bring him to the next level, to make him, that world-class player that I know he can be. I just don't see it happening.
Okay, so you're saying he could play in a team with Aubameyang as a focal point, but you don't think it will happen under Wenger, and he is better off now moving on in the summer? Yes.
I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. I know that's not probably what you people want to hear. I trying to look at it objectively. Mm-hmm. I love Arsene Wenger. I love the man. I adore him. I respect him. I want him to take over the national team. If he sticks to his word as he has before, honoring his contract, he will stay beyond the summer. Where that leaves Lacazette, I have no idea. And if he faces the risk of not going to the World Cup, I think that he probably will move on and go to Atletico.
Why do you think? There was a lot of talk last year that Wenger wanted Aubameyang, but he just wasn't prepared to pay the price, and that Lacazette was the second choice. Do you think that's true? Do you see that? I mean, obviously he's now reluctantly paid the money for Aubameyang. Do you see that sort of like storyline? Do you believe that storyline?
No, I don't, because as we all know, as everyone knows in France, Wenger has been after Lacazette for a decade.
But people would say that he was, but people will say that he was always reluctant to pay the price that Olas wanted.
Yeah, but then again, who isn't? There's a reason why so many teams are hesitant to negotiate with Olas. He is a brilliant businessman, probably the best president in Europe. And when, paying the big money, I don't know if people are willing to do that. Yes, he can be a bit demanding. We saw it as well with, when Madrid negotiated with him for Benzema. I think in the end, Aulas got 40 million for unproven Benzema at the age of 22, which is a lot of money at that time for a player who's only played in one league. But as football is today, teams, clubs are gonna demand a lot of money, and 9 out of 10 times, the other club is gonna pay that money. It is how it is. That's football today. And I do believe that he wanted Lacazette. Lacazette said so himself. Wenger came to France, had dinner with him and his family, told him about the vision, how he wanted him to play. And I don't think that has changed in the space of 6 to 7 months. I do believe Aubameyang was brought in to probably replace Sanchez in terms of goals. And then, because he's brought on Mkhitaryan, he thought, okay, let me go and bring Aubameyang to, reunite that partnership. Maybe that probably, will affect other players, as we've seen it has with Lacazette. But now he's injured, so we'll see how it goes. I just don't see him staying beyond this summer.
Interesting times ahead for Alexander Lacazette then. Okay, so just a couple of other draws that came out. Atletico Madrid versus Lokomotiv Moscow. Atletico Madrid are basically the bookies' favourite for the competition. Do you see them negotiating that one quite? I mean, Lokomotiv, I think, are top of the Russian league.
Yes, they are.
Yep. Right, 8 points or so. Do you think that'll be a difficult time for Atletico, or do you think they'll breeze through that? Quickly.
I think going to Russia, mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a task. I don't care which team you are. I think it's going to be a difficult one either way. I think probably Atletico will win in the end, but it will be a hard-fought game over 2 legs.
We've got Leipzig versus Zenit St. Petersburg. Who's your winner for that one?
Leipzig. They beat Napoli, so.
Very true. But Zenit, they're pretty strong at home. They're pretty strong. They've got a lot of Argies over there.
Yeah, but they haven't done well in the league.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true. Okay, over to Sporting Lisbon to Victoria Pilsen. Now, Victoria Pilsen are probably the lowest ranked team left, apart from, I would say they're the lowest ranked team left in the competition, but they have done exceptionally well in the Europa League. How do you see that one going? Sporting Lisbon versus Victoria Pilsen of the Czech Republic.
I think Victoria Pilsen, you never underestimate the dark horses. I think they're going to be a dark horse.
Okay, coolio. And then finally we've got Borussia Dortmund versus Red Bull Salzburg.
Dortmund is going through.
Cool.
We should be wary of them. They are also one of the favorites, despite having a bit of a shaky team, shaky season.
Yeah, cool. So in your mind, it's Lazio, Leipzig, Atletico, Lyon. Who did you say is going to win between Marseille and Bilbao?
Oh, Bilbao. They have to win.
Okay, Bilbao, Pilsen, Borussia Dortmund, and AC Milan. Boo!
Hey, prove me wrong. Make my prediction, the streak of good predictions, just like, we need an end to it. Because I should put money on it myself.
Records are there to be broken, right? So let's Okay, cool, yeah. Alright, where can people find you on Twitter and on your... where can they find your voice on the airwaves?
I don't tweet much these days, so you
Rubbish.
can just...
You've got like 7,000 tweets. What are you talking about?
I come in, if I'm bored, I want to, stir some shit around. I just come in, tweet something controversial, then just leave my Twitter.
On strings.
But usually you can find me on the Football Hipsters podcast. I'm there every week covering French and Italian teams. Yes. So if you want to hear my voice again, that's where you can find me.
Cool. Your Twitter handle is @CocoLito.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Oh,
right.
It's an honor to Lisa.
If anyone didn't know that already, there you go. All right, so I want to thank you for coming on today to talk about the Europa League. Thank you very much, Lana. Speak to you again soon.
Thanks for having. Yes.
And I've been your host, Giles. Catch me on Twitter @AFC_Giles with 2 L's. It's been a Good Remember podcast. Catch us on all the platforms. Please rate, like, retweet, share, and give us some feedback. See you again soon. Up your Arsenal.
This episode of the Gooner Ramble is sponsored by the new sporting betting app called Bookie. That's BOOKEE. Sign up using the promo code podcast. Deposit and bet £10 in multiple bets for a free £10 bet. Please bet responsibly.